Next we learned that the previous prophet's command to love your neighbor as yourself didn't apply to this peculiar order of religious stalwarts.
Tabari and Ishak. When the Muslims fled, the uncouth and rude fellows from Mecca who were with us saw that we were in total disarray. Some of them spoke in a manner that disclosed the hatred they harbored against us. Abu Sufyan,
the Meccan chief turned Muslim warrior,
had divining arrows with him, but another Muslim said, "Sorcery is useless today." Sufyan replied, "Shut up. May Allah smash your mouth."
This episode is alarming. First, we discover the gambling game of divining arrows that had saved Abd Allah, Muhammad's father, was satanic. Second, witchcraft was routinely practiced around the Kaaba. And third, these Meccan Muslims who had lived next to the Black Stone for decades knew that Allah was useless. So now they feared that things were so bad that the almighty Satan couldn't even rescue them. Well, things continued to spiral out of control.
Tabari and Ishak. When Muhammad saw his men confused and in disarray, he repeated, "Where are you going, men?" But not even one of them paid heed to his cries. So he went up to the biggest man with the strongest voice and had him shout to rally the troops.
The first Muslims were confused. Neither they nor their prophet knew where they were going. Ultimately, fewer than 1% of the 12,000 fighters responded to the prophet's plea.
Ishak. Finally 100 were gathered around the prophet. They confronted the enemy and fought.
Their battle cries weren't for Mohammed, Allah, or even for Islam.
The first cry was, "Help the Ansar!" And then, "For the Khazraj!" Looking down at the melee as they were fighting, the prophet said, "Now the oven is hot."
According to Islamic tradition, which, as we know, is a precisely accurate and unbiased account, the narrator intoned with tongue firmly planted in his cheek.
Tabari. Ali came upon them from behind, hamstrung their camels, and they fell on their rumps. He struck the enemy with such blows he cut off feet and shanks. The men fought, and by Allah, when those
Muslims
who had run away returned, they found only prisoners already handcuffed with the apostle.
That means that a force fierce enough to make 12,000 men flee was conquered, bound, and slain by 100.
Ishak. The messenger returned to Abu Sufyan, who stood fast fighting that day. He had become an excellent Muslim after embracing Islam.
That means it doesn't take much Islam to turn men violent. But it's worse than that. An hour earlier, this
excellent Muslim
was practicing
sorcery. Tabari. Muhammad turned to see a pregnant woman, who said, "O messenger, kill those
Muslims
who flee from you, as you kill those who fight you, for they deserve death. Here is my dagger. If any come near me, I will rip them up and slit open their belly with it."
She had listened to the Quran recitals and knew that Allah hated peaceful Muslims who retreated in battle. But Allah loves a good thief.
Abu Talha took the spoils of 20 men whom he had killed.
This is such a charming religion. And we know it's a religion because there are killer angels. If Islam were a political doctrine, they would be murderous comrades.
Tabari and Ishak. While the men were still fighting, I saw a black striped garment descending from the sky until it dropped between us and the enemy. I gazed, and lo, it was a mass of black ants strewn everywhere, which filled the valley. I had no doubt that they were angels, and that the enemy would be routed.
And that would make either Allah or Muhammad a liar. For Allah said,
"He sent down forces which you saw not."
One of Muhammad's marauders boasted about how blood and booty had motivated the first Muslims.
Ishak. I went up to a man and struck off his hand, and he throttled me with the other. He would have killed me if the loss of blood had not weakened him. He fell, and I killed him as soon as he was down. But I was too occupied with fighting to pay any more attention to him. So one of the Muslim Meccans passed by and stripped him. Then, when the fighting was over and we had finished with the enemy, the apostle said that anyone who had killed a foe could have his spoil. I told the apostle that I had killed a man who was worth stripping, but I had been too busy killing others at the time to notice who had spoiled him.
So Abu Bakr scolded the Muslim who had wrongly stolen the mutilated man's clothes.
To Allah's lions who fight for his religion go the spoils that come from their prey. Return the booty to the man who killed him. The apostle confirmed Abu Bakr's words. So I was given the property of the man whom I had killed. I sold it and bought a small palm grove with the money. It was the first property I ever owned.
Sometimes I don't know if I should scream or just give up. The degree to which Islam's poison corrupts men is hard to fathom. Saving mankind from this religion will not be easy. Old hatreds die hard.
Ishaq, when the apostle learned that one of the Meccans had died in battle, he said, Allah curse him. He used to hate the Quraysh.
All the while,
Tabari, one of the Ansari who was plundering the slain came upon a Thaqif boy. He discovered that he was an uncircumcised Christian. He uncovered others and then yelled out at the top of his voice, Allah knows that the Thaqif are uncircumcised.
Muslims had now killed and robbed their first Christians. This wouldn't be Islam without a sonnet to commemorate the great occasion.
Ishaq, Mohammad is the man, an apostle of my Lord who errs not, neither does he sin. Any who would rival him in goodness must fail. Evil was the state of our enemies, so they lost the day. Fortunes change, and we came upon them like lions from the thickets. The armies of Allah came openly, flying at them in rage, so they could not get away. We destroyed them and forced them to surrender. In the former days there was no battle like this. Their blood flowed freely. We slew them and left them in the dust. Those who escaped were choked with terror. A multitude of them were slain. This is Allah's war, in which those who do not accept Islam will have no helper. War destroyed the tribe, and fate the clan.
With each word, Islam grew more violent and even more repulsive. Muhammad's disciples said that their warlord
errs not, neither does he sin.
That
none could rival him in goodness.
Deceit, sin, and evil have been redefined. It isn't a sin to fight, kill, terrorize, bear false witness, covet, or steal. And that's why the Quran and Hadith boast about such things. The second half of Abbas's poem, turned Islamic tradition, is frightening. It explains what happens to people who are victimized by Islam. The Muslims were the aggressors, as they
came upon them like lions.
They were an
army,
not missionaries.
Rage
consumed them. The first Muslims were
destructive.
They
forced surrender.
And we know that it was Islam that had done this to them because
in the former days there were no battles like this.
Death was the result.
Blood flowed freely.
Killing meant nothing to the Muslims as they
left them in the dust.
The first Muslims were vicious terrorists.
Those who escaped were choked with terror. A multitude were slain.
And all of this death and destruction was perpetrated in the name of their despicable spirit.
This is Allah's war.